right, we're going to get ready to open up with a prayer. Just a couple minutes. Let some of the visitors
come on in, I got you ready.
Come inside.
We're about to pray, actually. Cause I'm a psychic.
Shalom, brother. How you doing? We getting ready to open up with a prayer. All brothers remove their head coverings. And all sisters pray with their heads covered. Shalom, Elder.
Shalom.
Elder, can you go ahead and open this up in prayer?
Heavenly Father, Yahweh, most holy and true covenant Elohim of every Meshach and Yaakov, we give all thanks and praise unto you, Father Yahweh, for allowing us, Father Yahweh, to get through, Father, complete and enjoy, Father Yahweh, your Hamasa, Father Yahweh. Heavenly Father Yahweh, thank you, Father, for this last day, Father, of your feast, Father Yahweh, the last couple of hours, Father Yahweh. And we ask, Father Yahweh, to open our hearts, Father, to receive your word, Father Yahweh, to understand your word, Father Yahweh. To know, Father Yahweh, with discernment, Father, how we're supposed to walk, Father Yahweh. Because we know, Father Yahweh, there's many things that come at us, Father Yahweh, and we must learn how to discern, Father, what is good and what is bad, Father Yahweh. And how our walk, Father, should be, because you give us a light to our lamp for our feet, Father Yahweh, to walk down the path, Father Yahweh. Because we know you walk a lot in darkness, Father Yahweh, but you the one, Father Yahweh, who illuminate our path, Father Yahweh, so you can see the truth, Father Yahweh. And we give you thanks and praise for this, Father Yahweh, or we wouldn't know where we'd be at, Father Yahweh, if we didn't have you, Father Yahweh. So we thank you for your blessings, Father Yahweh, your mercies, Father Yahweh, because we need your tender mercy every day, Father. And we ask, Father Yahweh, to open our hearts, Father Yahweh, allow your holy word, Father, to illuminate our hearts, Father Yahweh. Keep our hearts soft, Father Yahweh, so we may do your holy and mighty will. So we give you thanks and praise in Yeshua's holy and mighty name by the word you've given us, Father Yahweh. Praise you, Father, in Yeshua's name. Amen.
Amen. All right, shalom. My name is Yasharal. My brother Yasharal. Shalom. How's your 7 days been?
It's been cool, man. You know, the enemy always try to stick his hand into it, but you know, it's up to us to make sure that we stay out, do our best to stay unleavened, you know, and do our best to represent Yah and reflect Yah in all our ways.
Praise Yah, definitely. It's been a very beautiful start to the year since New Year with you know, Passover, unleavened bread, our 7 days. We're getting towards the end of the 7 days. At sundown, when night begins, we'll be over with the feast, and then that begins the count to the Shabbat, which the day after that Sabbath is going to go ahead and be our first fruits. So the title of today's Bible study is Yasharal, Israel, the first fruits of YAH. Yasharal, the first fruits of YAH. And we have to understand that we are Yah's fruit. He was the husbandman that bared us, you know, when he gave us the spirit and for us to grow and produce fruit. And we are the first fruits. We're supposed to be the best of the best. We're supposed to be the first. We're the firstborn. So We're the first nation that he called unto himself and that gave his spirit, allowed us to grow, added increase. So we belong unto him. And that's why he says, Yasharal, you belong unto me. You are my servants. So we're going to get into that. Let's open up first in Devarim chapter 26. And we're looking at the first fruits of the land belong unto Yah. And when you think of the land as far as Jerusalem, you're also thinking of the people. So when it talks about the land Jerusalem, is also talking about the people Jerusalem. So the first fruits of Jerusalem belong unto him. The first fruits of the people belong unto him. And he established that from earlier where he said the firstborn male belongs unto me. He who opens the matrix, the firstborn, that belongs unto me. And he replaced that with the Levites and said, the Levites, you are now going to be replacing the firstborn of every male. You are going to now be the firstborn, and you are going to be the servants unto the sons of Aaron, which are also Levites, but are the branch of the high priests. Devarim, Deuteronomy chapter 26, and we're going to start this at verse 1. And shalom, Brother Robert McCall. Good to see you again. Shalom, Sister Tanya, and Brother Isaiah. We missed you. Sorry y'all couldn't make up the journey, but you know, praise Yah that you were able to do some good works and provide a place for other Hebrews and other new people to come and visit. And that's the thing, you know, that's why we say Yah's will with everything, because we may have all the intentions of going somewhere, and the Most High may hold you back for a reason or a purpose. And just because you may not be able to make it to the assembly doesn't mean your assembling stops. You know, where you can't assemble, where it says 2 or 3 or more gathered in his name, there he is in the midst. So it's very important that we have these satellite branches everywhere, because we are scattered abroad. So praise Yah for your works and what you were all able to do. So again, we're open up in Devarim chapter 26, and we're going to start this at verse 1.
And it shall be, when you are come in unto the land which Yahweh your Elohim gives you for an inheritance, and possess it, and dwell therein, that you shall take of the first of all the fruit of the earth, which you shall bring of your land that Yahweh your Elohim gives you, and shall put it in a basket, and shall go unto the place which Yahweh your Elohim shall choose to place his name there. And you shall go unto the priest that shall be in those days, and say unto him, I profess this day unto Yahweh your Elohim that I am come unto the country which Yahweh sware unto our fathers for to give us. And the priest shall take the basket out of your hand, and set it down before the altar of Yahweh your Elohim. And you shall speak and say before Yahweh your Elohim, a Syrian ready to perish was my father, and he went down into Mitzrayim and sojourned there with a few, and became there a nation, great, mighty, and populous. And the Mitzrites, Egyptians, evil entreated us, and afflicted us, and laid upon us hard bondage. And when we cried unto Yahweh Elohim of our fathers, Yahweh heard our voice, and looked on our affliction and our labor and our oppression. And Yahweh brought us forth out of Mitzrayim with a mighty hand, and with an outstretched arm, and with great terribleness, and with signs and with wonders.
So just imagine the mind frame of you know, our Elohim when we cried and complained unto Yah about the wickedness that was being done to us. And Torah doesn't even give you a full explanation of the amount of wickedness that was being done to our people. When you get into book of Yasharal and other history books, it shows you they used to do all kind of things. They used to take our children, and if we didn't produce enough brick and we didn't produce enough of goods for them, then they would make us take our children, and they would make us literally build our children into the walls of these great mighty structures that you see in Egypt that we built. They would make us put our babies in the walls and would spatter over the babies. And you would hear the fathers crying at night, because they would have, some of them would just leave their babies there because they were just so hurt. Others would actually go back and try to fish their babies out of the walls, crying. And this is a people that cried unto Yahweh, and then now Yahweh delivers them and is bringing them, proving them in the wilderness. And then we complaining like, oh, when we were in Egypt, how great it was when they were killing our children. and killing our wives and evil and treating us, but at least we had some flesh to eat. So that just goes to show you how powerful the stomach is and how powerful the flesh is, that we will take abuse and wicked treatment just to ensure that our belly is full. Go ahead.
Verse 8. And Yahweh brought us forth out of Mitzrayim with a mighty hand and with an outstretched arm and with great terribleness and with signs and with wonders. And he has brought us into this place and has given us this land, even a land that flows with milk and honey.
So Yah gave us this land. We didn't create the land. We didn't plant the stuff there. So this is why I said, you shall take them. Verse 2, you shall take the first of all the fruit of the earth, which you shall bring of your land that Yahweh gives you. So whatever, I'm going to give you all this, but when it produces, you give me the first of all the stuff there. Give me the best, the first, because the whole thing belongs to me, but I'm going to let you stay in possession of it. So by right, the best and the first should go to Yah. Go ahead.
And he has brought us into this place and has given us this land that flows with milk and honey. Verse 10. And now behold, I have brought the first fruits of the land, which you, O Yahweh, has given me. And you shall set it before Yahweh your Elohim and worship before Yahweh your Elohim.
Again, the first fruits of the land which you, O Yahweh, have given me. Because remember, one man plants, another man waters, but Yah adds the increase. So Yah gave it to us. Go ahead.
And you shall rejoice in every good thing which Yahweh your Elohim has given unto you, and unto your house, you and the Levite, and the stranger that is among you. When you have made an end of tithing, all the tithes of your increase, the third year, which is the year of tithing, and have given it unto the Levite, the stranger, the fatherless, and the widow, that they may eat within your gates and be filled.
All right. So verse 12 is giving you some information regarding tithing. It's telling you where the tithing goes to. First of all, the tithing, which was food and produce type products, it went unto the Levite, the stranger that sojourns among you, the fatherless, the widow, so that they may eat within your gates and be filled. So this is where your tithing went. And this happened every third year. There's a 7-year cycle. So halfway, about midway point through it in the third year, that's when you were to give your tithing. And it went unto the Levite, and the Levite would distribute it to the stranger, the fatherless, the widow. And this is how we had a welfare system where there was nobody starving or in a situation where they had to steal or do these type of things, because the Levite would have had a storehouse full of stuff that they received tithes from everybody, enough to cover them and their family and any poor and strangers and needy that was in the vicinity.
So while we have pastors and priests and all them reverends or something that have helicopters and $1 million homes and huge congregations, but most of the congregation is poor and hungry.
Right.
And can't even pay their bills.
Right. So we have to ask.
The pastor guys is low.
So pastor or reverend or bishop, whatever Greek title you want to give him, was he a Levite?
Nope.
We don't know. Can't prove it. Was he a stranger? Could be. Was he the fatherless? Or was he a widow? I don't think that he would claim that he would be any of these. If he was claiming he was a Levite, he'd be keeping the commandments. He'd be trying to keep the Shabbat. So, and is it the third year every Sunday? I don't know.
No.
Go ahead. Verse 13.
Then you shall say before Yahweh your Elohim, I have brought away the hallowed things out of mine house, and also have given them unto the Levite, and unto the stranger, to the fatherless, and to the widow. According to all your commandments which you have commanded me, I have not transgressed your commandments, neither have I forgotten them.
The hallowed things is everything, the first fruits, 1/10 of everything you have. And you collect that, and it's distributed on the third year. So after the third year, you have the fourth year, and you're collecting from the fourth year, fifth year, sixth year, seventh year, first year, second year, all the way to the next third year. And then now you're distributing that, and you're not to keep that. So you're always to put away some and keep some to the side to be prepared to give unto the poor. Go ahead.
We're at verse
13.
13. Okay, good. Levites changing unto the widow, according to all the commandments you have commanded me. I have not transgressed your commandments, neither have I forgotten them. Verse 14. I have not eaten thereof in my mourning, neither have I taken away any thereof for any unclean use, nor given any thereof for the dead. But I have hearkened to the voice of Yahweh my Elohim, and have done according to all that you have commanded me.
And that goes back to these funerals where, you know, you go to the funeral and they're cooking all this food in, you know, in honor of the dead and this, that, and the other. And that's kind of borderline. It might not necessarily mean that they're cooking it for the dead. But we have cultures that literally cook food and leave it for the dead. They have Dias de Muertos, Day of the Dead, you know, where they literally take food and they put it for their dead ancestors and leave it there. You go into Bel and the Dragon in Apocrypha, they were literally placing food there for the god. And the god would come back, this dead god that don't exist, would come and supposedly eat the food. And they had a little trap door where the priests and all the fake Baal priests used to come up there and eat the food. So they literally do these things.
Yeah, Indian,
Mm-hmm.
all those type of people. Then they got one of them that they go and I saw a documentary where they went and dug up their dead, washed their bones, sat down and had dinner with them, and then wrapped their bones and reburied them for the next year.
Now you know it. That had to come from an evil angel. That don't even make sense to us. We don't even want to. We don't even like being in a graveyard, much less, you know, touching dead bones.
Verse 15. Look down from your holy habitation from heaven and bless your people, Yasharal, and the land which you have given us, as you swear unto our fathers, a land that flows with milk and honey. This day Yahweh your Elohim has commanded you to do these statutes and judgments. You shall therefore keep and do them with all your heart and with all your soul. You have avouched Yahweh this day to be your Elohim, and to walk in his ways, and to keep his statutes and his commandments and his judgments, and to hearken unto his voice. And Yahweh has avouched you this day to be his peculiar people, as he has promised you, that you should keep all his commandments.
All right. So when it talks about peculiar people, it's his treasure. You are his treasure. So I'm avouching you this day to be my treasure. So in your treasure, first of all, if you have treasure, that means it has to be scarce. It can't be something that is everywhere. You can just get it anywhere. Then it wouldn't be valuable. It'd be just like everybody else. So he's saying you're going to be a treasure because you're valuable. You're scarce. There's not a lot like you. You are different. You are of a different continent, a different spirit. Go ahead.
Verse 19. And to make you high above all nations which he has made, in praise and in name and in honor, and that you may be an holy people unto Yahweh your Elohim, as he has spoken.
So we have been chosen to be a holy people, the first fruits of all the fruits, the best of it. We were chosen to be high above all nations. So this is where Yahweh designed us to be. This is the order. We are supposed to be the head, not the tail. If your head is all the way down by your behind, it's not in order. Something is wrong. And there's going to be disorder. And when there's disorder, there's going to be disease. And so this is what we're facing now as a nation, because we are out of order. We are not the head. We are now the tail. Then there's disorder. There's disease in the world. We cannot have peace because we are not in the proper order. The world cannot have peace because we are not where we belong. It's just like if you have anything out of order in your body, you will not have peace. You're going to have to take some kind of witchcraft, some kind of pharmakeia, some drug to make you not realize what's going on. And that's what we've been fed. We've been fed these drugs by this misinformation and this disinformation and these evil spirits and these spiritual wickedness in high places to keep us under a witchcraft where we don't realize what's going on, where we can't feel the pain, but yet we're constantly reminded that we're having an issue. So let's move on. Let's go to Leviticus chapter 23. YAH chapter 23, and we're going to read verses 4 through 14. And shalom, Sister Leah Noga. Good to see you, sis. The other way, Mama.
You gonna read from what?
From verse 4.
4.
Leviticus 23, and we're going to read verses 4 through 14, and we're going to look at this law of the first fruits. And you're doing a first fruit offering 3 times a year, but there's a holy day that's set up in the beginning of the year in a bib that stands alone by itself as a feast of first fruits. And this is completely different. And you can see the stage process that's going on. You have Passover, which is the preparation where the blood is spilled and you're being covered by that blood and death is passing over you. So you automatically receive that grace by that blood. And then now you have to earn that grace by that 7th-day feast where you have unleavened yourself. You have removed all the leaven out of your house, out of you, so that you could be a clean, holy item, so that you can now be waved before Yah as the first fruits of Yahweh for Feast of First Fruits. So it's a step process. You had to go through all that. You had to get rid of all that leaven and do all that until you get into first fruits. And then it says you cannot take any of this leaven, any of it, until after you have made your offering of everything that you have, of the first fruits of what you have. You make your offering. Now you can take part in some leaven. Now you can get some bread. Leviticus, YAH, chapter 23. And we're going to start this at verse 4. And Shalom, brother Desaline's petition or petition from Lake Worth, Florida. Okay. Was that Central Florida?
Verse 4.
Well, that's actually South Florida. Lake Worth. That's just right above Palm Beach. I got an uncle that lives in Lake Worth.
Leviticus, YAH 23 and verse 4. These are the feasts of Yahweh, even holy convocations, which you shall proclaim in their seasons.
So everything that are the feasts of Yahweh, the Moadim, the appointed dates of Yahweh, are here in Leviticus 23. Those are Yahweh's feasts. Anything that's outside of this is feasts that may be dedicated to Yah, but Yah didn't give these feasts. These are not Yah's holy days. So you can't add to these things because then that wouldn't be Yah's. You can't add to Yah's. Go ahead.
And on the 15th day of the same month is the feast of unleavened bread unto Yahweh. 7 days you must eat unleavened bread. And the first day you shall have a holy convocation. You shall do no servile work therein. But you shall offer an offering made by fire unto Yahweh 7 days. And the 7th day is a holy convocation. You shall do no servile work therein.
So we're ending that 7th day today. And so we had unleavened bread all 7 days, and we had to have the leaven out of our house for the 7 days. And notice it says you must eat unleavened bread. So not only do you have to remove leaven from your house, but you must eat unleavened bread for 7 days straight. So that is a commandment of Yah for the feast day, 7 days. So again, if we look at that word for unleavened bread, that's a different word than just normal bread. Unleavened bread is matzah. Matzah is H4682 in the Strong's Concordance. That's the lexicon number. That's the Hebrew number 4682. And it's matzah, spelled Matsah. And that's from H4711 in the sense of greedily devouring for sweetness, properly sweetness, concretely sweet. That is not soured or bittered with yeast, because that's what leaven does. Leaven causes something to puff up and rise, and it causes it to be sour. So unsoured, all right? And this is specifically an unfermented cake or loaf, or elliptically the festival of Pesach, because no leaven was then used. Unleavened bread without leaven. All right, go ahead, brother.
Verse 9. And Yahweh spoke unto Moshe, saying,
and this lets you know, okay, you had your 7-day feast. Now he's starting into a new feast, because he's saying, and Yahweh spoke unto Moshe, saying. So it's letting you know, we know he's speaking to Moshe. There's no need to say that, but he's saying that so that you know I'm beginning with the next feast. And you'll see that pattern here when he goes into the next feast.
Speak unto the children of Yasharal, and say unto them, When you be come into the land which I give you, and shall reap the harvest thereof, then you shall bring a sheaf of the first fruits of your harvest unto the priest. And he shall wave the sheaf before Yahweh to be accepted for you on the morrow after the Sabbath. The priest shall wave it.
All right, so there's the instructions. You have your 7 days. All these holy days are in order. They don't go out of order. You have your 7 days, and after your 7 days, which ends today, which would be Tuesday, after Tuesday, you have a Shabbat, a weekly Shabbat, which is this Saturday. When you have that weekly Shabbat, the morrow after the Sabbath is just the next day. The next day is Feast of First Fruits. That's the first day of the week. So that's when you have Feast of First Fruits. Now, the Jewish tradition is to have it inside the Feast of Unleavened Bread. And then we know we can prove that without a shadow of a doubt that is impossible for it to be inside of unleavened bread. And we'll get it right here in this next verse, these next 2 verses. Go ahead.
Verse 12. And you shall offer that day when you wave the sheaf, a he lamb without blemish of the first year for a burnt offering unto Yahweh. And the meat offering thereof shall be 2/10 deal of fine flour mingled with oil, an offering made by fire unto Yahweh for a sweet savor. And the drink offering thereof shall be of wine, the 4th part of a hin. And you shall eat neither bread, nor parched corn, nor green ears until the selfsame day that you have brought an offering unto your Elohim. It shall be for a statute forever throughout your generations in all your dwellings.
So verse 14 is the haymaker. Verse 14 is going to prove that you cannot have your Feast of First Fruits inside of unleavened bread. Because the commandment clearly says in verse 6, you must eat unleavened bread for 7 days. But here in verse 14 says, and you shall eat neither bread, nor corn, or green ears, until the same day that you brought your offering unto Yahweh. So the day that you brought your offering unto Yahweh is what we just had. Feast of First Fruits, what we just read. That is that first day that comes after the Sabbath that precedes your 7 days of unleavened bread. So there's a contradiction there. If you look at the word for bread, you can see that it's not talking about unleavened bread. And that's going to be a contradiction here if you put your Feast of First Fruits inside of unleavened bread. You look for the Hebrew word for bread so you know what it's talking about. It's not saying unleavened bread. It's lahaim. Lahaim, which is H3899. Lahaim. And that is spelled Lechem. And that's from H3898. Food, especially bread or grain, for making it. Bread, food, fruit, loaf, meat, victuals, so forth and so on. So you can't eat of the grain and bread until after you have made your offering. So if you have your first fruits offering on the 16th of Abib, which is the day after the first day of unleavened bread, just like the Jewish people do it. And it says here, you can eat bread after you make that first fruit offering. Then that will be a contradiction, because you can't eat unleavened. You can't eat bread with leaven during the 7 days of unleavened bread. So why would it tell you you can eat bread after? There will be a contradiction. So that can't be. So even if you say, okay, that bread meant unleavened bread. So just say they're saying you can eat unleavened bread after you give your offering. That's a problem too, because if it's talking about unleavened bread, that means technically you can't eat unleavened bread until after the 16th or till the 16th when you do your first fruit offering, which is contradiction again of verse 6 where it says you got to eat for 7 days bread. So either way you look at it, whether you want to consider this bread here saying you can't eat bread until the day that you make that offering, whether you want to call it unleavened bread or bread, either way it's a contradiction, because you got to start eating unleavened bread from the 15th. So if it says here you can't eat unleavened bread or any kind of bread until after you make that offering on the 16th, you've already transgressed the commandment, because you had to start eating that bread from the 15th day of Abib, which is the first day of unleavened bread. So however you want to break it, I don't care how you want to play with it, it's still going to be a contradiction. And we know Yah's word does not contradict. It's clearly mapped out for you if you follow the instructions as it is written.
Brother, do you have any idea how our brothers and sisters, how we did back in the day, made this mistake? If this is showing us the truth and we have rightly divided this word to give us the understanding of Yahweh spoke to the children of Israel twice during this time, so he made a distinct division of his holy wheat of unleavened bread, okay, and then dividing that from first fruits.
Right, right. We were taught Jewish doctrine. When we were taught the same way they gave us Christianity and it was given to us by our oppressors. Well, same thing with Judaism. They gave us Judaism. Okay, you want to be a Christian? You want to be a follower of Christ? No problem. We're going to teach you how to follow the Greek Messiah with the blonde hair, blue eyes that say you can do whatever you want. Follow sweet baby Jesus. And then you have, okay, you want to be a Hebrew? No problem. Follow these Germans. Follow these Euro Gentiles and they'll teach you how to be an Israelite. Well, no, we're going to teach you how to be Jewish. So we followed their traditions. And because we came out of Christianity and felt like, we were being lied to, we said certainly these white people that are Jewish are calling themselves the Jews. So they must have the information. No, the information is in your book. Just get back in your book and start researching and learning your own culture. And we totally rejected anything African. We just said, oh, that's all Hamites. The whole continent's all Hamites.
So basically what you're saying is right now, we can assume that because we are rightly dividing his word and we believe in what Yahweh has told us and showed us here, that all without continuing to follow that Jewish mesh belief, has a little bit of scale on the eye right now.
Exactly. We started there. Many of us started with those Jewish traditions, and that's fine. At least you were moving in the right direction. That's like some of us started as 7-day Adventists. Okay, you're off on some things and not really keeping the holy days, but at least you're trying to keep the Shabbat. Yep. You're trying to be sanctified and separated from the world. So it's a move in the right direction. Let's go to Jeremiah chapter 2. Jeremiah chapter 2. And here you're going to see Yahweh making it point clear. You Israel, you are my firstborn. You are my first fruits. You are the first fruits of increase. Anything that was good and produced in this world, you are the first fruits of that. You are the first part. You are the best portion of that. That's who you were. And when we started to act against that capacity, that's when it became a problem. Because if your first fruits is messed up, what you say about the rest of your fruit? If this is the best, the first of the first fruits belong to Yah, and your first fruit sucks, and the best of your first fruit sucks, what are you going to say about the rest of your harvest? It's going to be garbage. So this is why it had to be something had to be done by the husbandman. Because, hey, didn't I plant here good seed? Where all these tares came from?
Don't pull them up.
An enemy came at the nighttime and planted these tares around you. And like the elder said, don't root them up. At least you root up some of the wheat.
That's right.
Don't root them up. Let them grow so at the time of harvest, we can reap all the tares first because they stick straight up in the air.
Yep.
They refuse to bow themselves because they're not bearing no fruit.
That's right.
When you bearing fruit, you bowing over because you so heavy with wheat, with fruit. Jeremiah chapter 23, Jeremiah chapter 2, Jeremiah chapter 2, and we're going to start this at verse 1.
Moreover, the word of Yahweh came to me, saying, Go and cry in the ears of Jerusalem, saying, Thus says Yahweh, I remember you, the kindness of your youth, the love of your espousals when you went after me in the wilderness in the land that was not sown. Yasharal was holiness unto Yahweh, and the first fruits of his increase. All that devour him shall offend. Evil shall come upon them, says Yahweh.
So Yasharal was holiness, was Kodesh unto Yahweh. And the first fruits of his increase. So not only just the increase, but we are the first fruits of it. His increase is man, period. This is what he's created, but we're the first fruits of that. So if we're the first fruits of that, we belong unto Yah. So this is why we have to offer ourselves. This is why Yahshua had to offer himself. He was the first fruits of creation, period. Go ahead.
Verse 4. Hear you the word of Yahweh, O house of Jacob, and all the families of the house of Yasharal. Thus says Yahweh, what iniquity have your fathers found in me, that they are gone far from me, and have walked after vanity, and are become vain? Neither said they, where is Yahweh that brought us up out of the land of Mitzrayim, that led us through the wilderness, through a land of deserts and of pits, through a land of drought and of the shadow of death, through a land that no man passed through, and where no man dwelt? And I brought you into a plentiful country, to eat the fruit thereof, and the goodness thereof. But when you entered, you defiled my land, and made my heritage an abomination. The priests said not, where is Yahweh? And they that handle the law knew me not. The pastors also transgressed against me, and the prophets prophesied by Baal.
Lord. Baal is Lord in English. So you see how they took Yahweh's name and placed it with Baal. This is why we don't use the word Lord. Because it's literally, if you look it up in a Merriam-Webster's dictionary, it's Baal in Hebrew. Go ahead.
Prophets prophesied by Baal, and walked after things that do not profit. Wherefore I will yet plead with you, says Yahweh, and with your children's children will I plead. For pass over the isles of Kittim, and see, and send unto Kedar, and consider diligently, and see if there be such a thing. Has a nation changed their gods, which are yet no gods? But my people have changed their glory for that which does not profit. Be astonished, O you heavens, at this, and be horribly afraid. Be you very desolate, says Yahweh. For my people have committed two evils. They have forsaken the fountains of living waters, and hewed them out cisterns, broken cisterns that can hold no water. Is Yasharal a servant? Is he a homeborn slave? Why is he spoiled?
So are we made to be a servant to the whole world in servitude when it just said, hey, we're supposed to be the head? Now, if we are the head and being a servant to them all, that's different. That's a different capacity. But no, we are being slave servants. And are we a homeborn slave? So when you go through this book, all you constantly read through Judges and all these chronicles, you see slavery after slavery after slavery of the children of Yasharal. Is that what we were made for? No, we were made to be kings. We were made to be the head. We were made to receive all the blessings of the earth, but we rejected blessings. We rejected the blessings and tried to seek it the way the Gentiles sought after it. And they're grabbing those and they're getting those blessings by doing wickedness because the adversary is allowing them to get that. Whereas if we wanted those blessings, we have to attain it through righteousness. And we refuse to do that. And that's why they asking questions like, are we homeborn slaves? Or we were just born to be slaves? When America was bringing slaves over here, they started with the Africans, with the Hamites.
That didn't work too well.
And the Hamites jumping off ships, they're like, nah, we'd rather jump off a ship and die rather than come to this land. We not slaves. We know who we are. How dare you? I have a nation. My nation ain't gonna be about this. And they refused to work, and they had to kill them and do all kind of atrocities, the same atrocities they did in the land of Africa, when they had to cut people's arms off and do all kind of things. Then they said, all right, well, we're going to deal with the Africans that were already there in America, that already came over here, the same ones, Queen Khalifa that had already made settlements in California, and the other Africans that settled that they later called Native Americans. Those people refused. They fought left and hand and foot and refused to do that. So they said, let's go grab them slaves from Western Africa. Them Hebrews, they are generational slaves. They know how to, first of all, they got melanin. They can deal with the heat. We brought white slaves over here. That didn't work. They died off quickly. So we brought some Africans because when you look at America, it's close to the same latitude as Israel. It's not off. It's not far. So they brought us over there, And they said, fine, all right, now we got a nation of people who used to be slaves. They're known to be slaves. They're already slaves in Western Africa. And they know how to be husbandmen. There it is. Now we got tobacco plants. We got all this stuff down here now. Go ahead.
Verse 15. The young lions roared upon him and yelled, and they made his land waste. His cities are burned without inhabitant. Also the children of Noph and Tahpanhes have broken the crown of your head. Have you not procured this unto yourself, in that you have forsaken Yahweh your Elohim, when he led you by the way? And now what have you to do in the way of Mitzrayim, to drink the waters of Sihor? Or what have you to do in the way of Assyria, to drink the waters of the river? Your own wickedness shall correct you, and your backslidings shall reprove you. Know therefore and see that it is an evil thing and bitter that you have forsaken Yahweh your Elohim, and that my fear is not in you, says my sovereign Yahweh of hosts. For of old time I have broken your yoke, and burst your bands, and you said, I will not transgress, when upon every high hill and under every green tree you wandered, playing the harlot.
All right, so verse 19, your own wickedness shall correct you. And that's what happened to us. When we were Yah was merciful enough to us. Our own wickedness corrected us. We got beat so bad that we finally said, you know what, something got to be wrong. This can't be life. And it says, our own backslidings are going to reprove us. Know therefore and see that it's an evil and bitter thing that you have forsaken Yahweh your Elohim, that his fear is not in you. The reverence of Yahweh is not in us. So we suffer the ultimate consequence. And the ultimate consequence is we not receiving the blessings we supposed to get. Go ahead.
Verse 21. Yet I had planted you a whole vine, wholly a right seed. How then are you turned into the degenerate plant of a strange vine unto me?
I planted you good. I watered you. You should have been increased. How are you turned into this degenerate plant? Go ahead.
For though you wash you with niter, and take you much soap, yet your iniquity is marked before me, says my sovereign Yahweh.
All right, so even though you taking your raquettes, you're taking your ritual baths to wipe off your sins, but your heart hasn't repented. You haven't changed in your heart to try to correct the things that you're doing. So your sin is still right there. It's marked before Yahweh because you didn't try to stop the thing. You didn't try to correct the thing. You try to keep the legality of the law and just say, well, you know, I'm unclean, so, you know, I just slept with somebody's wife. Let me just take a bath so I'm not unclean from having sex. No, that ain't gonna work. Go ahead.
Verse 23. How can you say I am not polluted? I have not gone after Baalim.
And Baalim is multiple Baals, multiple masters, multiple pagan sun gods. So it wasn't like you chose one and you just said, all right, I'm cheating on Yahweh with one other god. Nah, we had multiple Baalim. Go ahead.
See your way in the valley. Know what you have done. You are a swift dromedary traversing her ways, a wild donkey used to the wilderness that snuffed up the wind at her pleasure. In her occasion, who can turn her away? All they that seek her will not weary themselves. In her month, they shall find her.
So you want to find us? Just follow the trail of uncleanness. So with this donkey in the time of her month, she leaking everywhere. So you ain't got to worry to find them. Just follow the trail of uncleanness if you want to find her. And that's how he's comparing us to that. Just look for where you see all the wickedness going on. There you're going to see Israel in the midst being punished. Go ahead.
Little dromedary is a little feminine for a camel. You follow the camel. All you do is being led. You just walking. You making a decision yourself. You just following this foolishness.
Verse 25. Withhold your foot from being unshod, and your throat from thirst. But you said, there is no hope. No, for I have loved strangers, and after them will I go. As the thief is ashamed when he is found, so is the house of Yasharal ashamed. They, their kings, their princes, and their priests, and their prophets, saying to a stock, you are my father, and to a stone, you have brought me forth. For they have turned their back unto me and not their face, But in the time of their trouble, they will say, "Arise and save us."
And what was that? Didn't they have not the Dome of the Rock, but there was some other rock that fell that they thought was from Mercurius or something like that? You remember that?
Asteroid.
Something that fell, some
That's
rock
what they
that
have-
fell.
That's what they have over there is an asteroid. Dome of the Rock.
And so is that the same one they were talking about in the New Testament?
I think that might be because what they're talking right now, that rock that fell right there is an asteroid.
Mm-hmm.
And they had a whole, I think in their temple, they had a whole lot of different L's. They tell me, but when that rock fell, I think that's where they took everything out and put that there.
I think the
Matter of
one.
fact, they encased that, they got silver, or white gold that they have millions of them come by and have a second to kiss and give their worship to.
I think the one that you're referring to in New Testament was the one for the goddess Diana or something like that.
Something like that. Yeah.
When
That
they
was in
made
Acts
out of
14.
silver.
Mm-hmm.
The silversmiths, Coopersmith, I believe it was. You know, they made a idol
Mm-hmm.
because they made much money from it. But the stock they're talking about is this cross. You
Right.
understand that people bow down to.
Mm-hmm. No different because they had Straos. They had all this stuff going on way back to a thing called Mithraism, which was another worship, which was just a derivative from the Babylonian and the Egyptian original worship, which came with the Ankh, which was just a cross, another form of a cross. You know, so it went from there to the Greeks who had no religion, had no nothing, stole that religion and created something else out of it called Mithraism. And that's where that cross came. And then later they start getting into this whole Christianity thing and just pulled the same pagan practices.
A tree.
Mm-hmm.
Verse 28. But where are your gods that you have made yourself? Let them arise, if they can save you in the time of your trouble, for according to the number of your cities are your gods, O Yehuda. Therefore will you plead with me? Why will you plead with me?
Mm-hmm.
You all have transgressed against me, says Yahweh. In vain have I smitten your children. They received no correction. Your own sword has devoured your prophets like a destroying lion. O generation, see you the word of Yahweh. Have I been a wilderness unto Yasharal, a land of darkness? Why say my people, we have dominion, we will come no more unto you? Can a maid forget her ornaments, or a bride her attire? Yet my people have forgotten me days without number.
We have forgotten him so much to the point where we forgot his name. And read that note at the bottom of chapter 3. Right at the bottom where it says Baal in your study Bible. What does that say there?
Pagan.
Read the whole thing.
Moabite of Canaanite.
Right. Read the whole thing.
In general, carries the same message to.
It says, well, no, at the bottom it says Baal.
Baal.
Baalim. And what does that say? Lord. A pagan god of the Moabites and the Canaanites. So your study Bible will tell you exactly what Lord is and what Baal is. And Baalim is just the plural of Baal. So the god of the Moabites and the god of Canaanites make Baalim because those are multiple Baals. So we have forgotten him days without number to the point where now we finally saying the name. Go ahead.
Jeremiah chapter 2 and verse 33.
Brother. Since you going there, he made a reference also in Yahmiah 3, 9 about the wood and the stone and stuff. They're talking about it came to pass through the lightness of their whoredoms that she defiled the land and committed adultery with stones and with stocks. So it's really talking about Christianity and Islam right here.
Right. Whoredom.
Because right now, Islam, they say, is above, almost above Christianity.
Right.
How many they have that believe that or following that now?
Now, that's very important when you look there in verse 9, when it talks about the likeness of her whoredom and defiled the land and committed adultery. Look up every instance that they're talking about whoredom and adultery and see what they're referring to. In verse 9, they're even letting you know adultery with your stones and with your stocks. He is highly concerned with marriage, and he compares whoredom and adultery to that of sleeping with another man's wife.
What
Because
verse?
we are, and this is verse 9 in chapter 3 and verse 9. And you see every instance in the New Testament and the Old Testament, it's referring to the same reference. He's talking about us as a nation not to be taking in these other spirits into us. And when we take those other spirits into us, it's manifesting into our actions, whether we are out here literally sleeping with other people's wives or being whoremongers out here sleeping with anybody. I don't care if that's your cousin, your niece, your auntie, or just running through women left and right with no real covenant that you're trying to make with a person. All of that is just the physical manifestation of the fact that you have already become an adulterer to the Most High by allowing all these filthy spirits into you to the point where you are not sanctifying your temple. You are not trying to be fruitful and multiply.
Maybe they don't realize it, but you really turned your back on the Most High.
Mm-hmm.
So how the Most High gonna help you? Gonna do anything for you when you turn your back on Him?
Mm-hmm.
And you keep defiling yourself, then He gonna turn His back on you.
Exactly.
He's got His hand stretched out to you still, but you got to get a clue here.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Before you do any sin, you've already sinned in your mind. Your heart was already it's just sin is just like when you take the match and you light the match. The sin is just the fire that comes out of that. The match is the sin you've already done inside. The spirit, the decision you've already made to not keep yourself Kodesh. That's already in. So it's just a situation and circumstance. That's the adversary looking for whom he may devour. Oh, I see a brother here with no covering because he's already left his covering, because he's already left the commandments. So all I got to do is show up. Here it is. Sin lies at the door. Go ahead.
YAH chapter 2 and verse 33. Why trim you your way to seek love? Therefore have you also taught the wicked ones your ways. Also in your skirts is found the blood of the souls of the poor innocents. I have not found it by secret search, but upon all these. Yet you say, because I am innocent, surely his anger shall turn from me. Behold, I will plead with you, because you say, I have not sinned. Why gad you about so much to change your way? You also shall be ashamed of Mitzrayim, as you were ashamed of Assyria.
So again, we see, I will plead with you. Like Yahweh gonna say, hey, listen, Israel, please stop transgressing. Stop doing this. Don't do this no more. No, that's not how Yahweh pleads. Yahweh pleads by killing you off and your children. I repay them to the face, to them that hate me, to the 10th generation. So this is how he plead with Israel. That's why I said, oh yeah, because you say you innocent. You say you ain't did nothing. You ain't did nothing wrong because you did the transgression. But hey, look, I did the animal sacrifice. I'm innocent. Nah, Yahweh gonna plead with you. He gonna let you know that ain't okay because he love you. Because he don't want to destroy you. Because you can't come before the Father with no wedding garment after you done destroyed yourself. He don't want it to get to that point. That's why he sent servants, and that's why he sent chastisement to us. But we reject that and we kill the servant. It's just like it said, our sword has devoured all of our prophets. And then we turn our back to the Most High.
What does it mean on verse 33? Verse 33.
What's the name?
When they say, why trimmest thou thy way to seek love? What does that mean?
Why do you trimmest your way?
Yeah.
To seek love, therefore you've also taught the wicked ones your way. So let's see what that word for trimmest is. So YAH 2 and 33.
Should be a real interesting word.
H3190.
You said H3190.
It might be sacrificing your honor.
Yatab.
Yatab is to make well, happy, successful. So we limited our happiness. We trimmed it
Sacrificing.
to seek love. So we, instead of us trying to fix our way properly to seek love, we caused ourselves more pain to seek love, to make well. So we try to make well our way to seek love. Therefore, we taught these wicked ones our ways.
So basically, this yatab means like to beautify, earnestly find favor. So trimming your way, it was pretty much like they were adorning themselves, like pretty much talking about the bride forgetting her attire and her ornaments. So the hair is like you're adorning yourself to seek love after after sitting there talking about adultery and stuff like that. So you're actually going forth and beautifying yourself and fortifying yourself in the wickedness, and all you're doing is promoting the same
wickedness. You're trying to make like you said, beautifying, make well, happy, successful. You're doing all these things that you think, accepted, amend, right, benefit, better, make cheerful, be comely, content, diligent. So there's a lot. So we are doing all these good things that we think as we perceive as doing good things, but it's just vanity. Because at the end of the day, yeah, we might be looking okay and we look nice and it looks like things are good and we think that we're going to receive love. But instead, we're doing the opposite of love. We are giving hate and teaching the wicked ones our ways.
So you think it's them trying to be accepted by the people? Like
Definitely. They're trying to be accepted by doing the things that we think vanity-wise is going to make, like Jonathan was saying, beautifying ourselves, looking nice, wearing the fringes all the way down to the floor. But then, they're looking at us like we're supposed to be the holy people, the wicked ones, because we walking around with fringes and kufis on our heads. But then they looking at our wicked ways, how we turn around and devour and fight amongst each other over how to pronounce a name and holy days and all types of stuff, instead of trying to build our nation and prove ourselves together. So we are just making a mockery of ourselves, and the wicked ones are learning more ways to be wicked, from the people that's supposed to be teaching them righteousness.
That's why Yeshua was talking about. You see these Pharisees speaking the truth. Listen to what they say, but don't do what they do.
Right.
Because they're hypocrites.
And verse 34 goes more into it now.
We're at 37.
Go to verse 34.
All right. Also in your skirts is found the blood of the souls of the poor innocents. I have not found it by secret search, but upon all these.
All right. So also in your skirts, in your kanaf, in your laws is found the blood of the souls of the poor and the innocents, because you are applying the law without the spirit of the law, so that you can devour the poor and this, and you're using it against them. And the perfect example of that is, I think in Jeremiah 23, where it talks about, is this the type of fast that I gave you for you to let all these people go, and then to oppress them after you let them go for atonement? And instead of giving them some food, these people work for you. They're poor. Instead of giving them some food so they can get on their feet and get some land or do whatever, you oppressed them, didn't give them nothing. And then they had to sell themselves back in slavery again for another 7 years. Go ahead. And we hiding behind it. Well, the law said I had to let them go. I let them go. So the law got to tell you to take care of the poor too?
Verse 35. Yet you say, because I am innocent, surely his anger shall turn from me. Behold, I will plead with you, because you say I have not sinned. Why gad you about so much to change your way? You also shall be ashamed of Mitzrayim, as you were ashamed of Assyria. Yea, you shall go forth from him, and your hands upon your head. For Yahweh has rejected your confidences, and you shall not prosper in them.
All right, you shall go forth from him with your hands upon your head. Hands up, don't shoot. Rejected your confidence, where you gotta ask somebody, don't kill me. Hands up, don't shoot. You gotta ask the people that's supposed to protect and serve you not to kill you. Yeah, there's a problem there. Let's go to Yaakov chapter 1. You have something, Elder?
I think
James chapter 1.
I think you can use something. You can use, if I remember straight, Isaiah 49. Let me see if I can find it right quick. 49. I mean, it says, I might be, maybe I will feed them that are thirsty with their own flesh and that drunken with their own blood. This is mine. I was gonna try and read verse 49 when he's, talking about he's the one gonna take care of us. He delivers us, but talking about I will feed them, the oppressors, with their own flesh.
Mhm.
How is Yahweh going to be able to do that if we're not following his law? That means he can't take care of us the way he wants to take care of us. He can't protect us the way he wants to protect us.
Right.
He can't deal with our enemies the way he want to deal with our enemies, because we are standing outside of his hedge.
Right. We limit the Most High with our unbelief.
Because how you going to contend with the one contend with it? That's 25. It said, thus said Yahweh, even the captives of the mighty shall be taken away, and the prey, and the terrible shall be delivered. For I will contend with him that contend with you.
Right.
And I will save your children. How can Yahweh do that if we continue stepping outside of the hedge?
Exactly. We can't. We putting ourselves in that destruction. James chapter 1. And now we're going to see where we stand. We know we were as a nation the first fruits. And then he said, didn't I plant all these great trees and all this stuff? Where's this stuff growing? What more could I have done? And now something new had to be created. A new creature, a new creation had to be created. And this was created through Yeshua. And now we are being reborn again. We are being freed from that original law of sin and death and given a grace period to try to get back right with the Most High. And we are now becoming the first fruits of Yeshua. First fruits of this word. The increase that comes from keeping this word, bringing the life, the light of man. The first fruits, the best of what's created from this is supposed to be the children of Yasharal that have repented.
You said 118?
James chapter 1. Jacob chapter 1. And we're going to start this at verse 1.
James, Jacob, a servant of Yahweh and of the Master Yahshua Mashiach, to the 12 tribes which are scattered abroad, greeting. My brethren, count it all joy when you fall into diverse temptations, knowing this, that the trying of your faith works patience.
And I always go over this when we read this. Where are the 12 tribes? Scattered abroad. Go ahead.
Excuse me.
Scattered. Doesn't mean we all in America.
Nope.
Abroad also means Africa. Abroad also means Europe.
Brazil.
Abroad definitely means Brazil, where 5 million of us went first. Go ahead.
Verse 3, knowing this, that the trying of your faith works patience. But let patience have her perfect work, that you may be perfect and entire, wanting nothing. If any of you lack wisdom, let him ask of Elohim, that gives to all men liberally, and upbraids not, and it shall be given him.
So if you are seeking the wisdom of how to keep these holy days, you ask Yah, he gonna send somebody to help you with this. Or send a video to help bring some light to you. And he will help you understand these things if you're seeking it in righteousness. You're not seeking it for an argument. You're seeking it to be obedient to the Most High.
There you go.
But that doesn't mean he gonna automatically beam that into your head. If that was the case, what he need servants for? What he need priests for and teaching priests? What he need that for? He just beam it into your head like an infrared remote. Go ahead.
Verse 6, but let him ask in faith, nothing wavering, for he that wavers is like a wave of the sea, driven with the wind and tossed.
So you can't be asking this with disbelief. Or I don't know, Yahweh gonna show me. So he sends somebody to show you. And you got all the information and this is the best that you can do. And you say, well, I ain't gonna do nothing because I don't know. I ain't sure. We ain't positive. Wait a minute. That's wavering. Did you not ask the Most High to show you this? Did you not ask him to show you his holiness, his righteousness, like David's prayer? Show me your ways, create in me a new heart, a new spirit, a clean heart. So you can't be asking wavering so that when Yahweh does send you a servant to teach you right from wrong, and he's proven or she is showing you all this stuff in the scriptures, and you still don't want to believe it. There's lions out there. I might get devoured. Go ahead.
Verse 7, or verse 6. Verse 6, but let him ask in faith, nothing wavering, for he that wavers is like the wave of the sea, driven with the wind and tossed. For let not that man think that he shall receive anything of Yahweh. A double-minded man is unstable in all his ways. Let the brother of low degree rejoice in that he is exalted, but the rich in that he is made low, because as the flower of the grass he shall pass away. For the sun is no sooner risen with a burning heat, but it withers the grass, and the flower thereof fades, and the grace and the fashion of it perishes, so shall the rich man fade away in his ways.
Okay, so it doesn't mean Yah hates the rich when it says, but the rich and that he is made low, because as the flower of the grass, he shall pass away. So regardless of how much money you have, you are going to be in the grave just like everybody else. So your clock is ticking because there's more responsibility for you. There's more responsibility for you because you have a greater capacity to do more good, more works with the financial resources that you have. Perfect examples like what was the brother you said. You talked about the brothers that bought the land, and they had one of the brothers that had a increase in some money, and he purchased the land so that people can move and try to create a righteous community. You being held accountable for that. It goes back to the parable with the man who built the bigger barn and said, "Oh man, look at all what I got. I'm gonna build a bigger barn so I can store even more of my stuff." And what did y'all say that night? What?
Your soul is required of you.
Your life is required of you. That night, because I put this in your hands so you can distribute, just like the teacher said, here, take these and pass it out to everybody in the class. You like, oh no, ooh, all these tests. Oh, I'm gonna put this in my folder. What you think gonna happen? What you think the teacher gonna do to you?
Not use you like that anymore.
He gonna find somebody. Hey, look, man, this dude is retarded. Hey, little Timmy, come here, pass these out. Go ahead.
Verse 12. Blessed is the man that endures temptation, for when he is tried, he shall receive the crown of life, which Yahweh has promised to them that love him. Let no man say when he is tempted, I am tempted of Elohim. For Elohim cannot be tempted with evil, neither tempts he any man.
He's not tempting you. He's proving you. And how he's proving you, he's saying, all right, just like a father proves his son when he's trying to teach him how to ride his bike. He hold him by his handlebars and he ride him pedal and he holds him. And then now he's proving him. I want to test you to see if you can ride this bike. He lets you go. And when he let you go, it's not guaranteed that you're going to fall, but it's a chance that you might fall. Us that learned how to ride the bike, we continued riding. We continued moving. So that's what the Most High does to us. He allows us to be in that situation where he lets go of the bike. He removes the training wheels to see what you're going to do. So you can prove yourself. He's not tempting you. Yahweh not sending you there to hit the ground. He knows statistically you're going to hit the ground, but what happens after that? You know your child, when he's learning to ride a bike, is going to hit the ground. So you give him some pads, or you get ready to grab him. You get ready to run so you don't hit the ground too hard. But you're looking to see what is that child going to do after they fall. Is he going to get back up? Or is he going to, I ain't riding this bike, I'm scared. Well, I guess it wasn't your time.
Verse 14. But every man is tempted when he is drawn away of his own lust and enticed. Then when lust has conceived, it brings forth sin, and sin, when it is finished, brings forth death. Do not err, my beloved brethren. Every good and perfect gift is from above, and every good gift and every perfect gift is from above, and comes down from the Father of lights, with whom is no variableness, neither shadow of turning. Of his own will begat he us with the word of truth, that we should be a kind of first fruits of his creatures.
All right, so we should be a kind of first fruits. So we're not really the first fruits, but we're a kind of first fruits. We're a type of first fruits because we are begat with this word of truth. So we are the first fruits unto Yahshua, a kind of first fruits. But there's different kinds of first fruits. You have the first of the first fruits, and then you also have first fruits. So we're a kind. We're one of those kinds. Go ahead. And we're going to go over a different kind of the first fruit.
You said reference to that right there, dealing with the first fruits or whatever. I think the meaning of what they're talking about here, they say in John 17:17, sanctify them through thy truth. Thy word is truth.
Right.
So if we are believing in the word, and we studying the word, and we're abiding ourselves in the word, then we're going to be sanctified in this word of truth because we're trying to follow it and give glory to Yah. So it kind of breaks open pretty deep right there. It's our actions. It shows that when you was mentioning just now riding a bike, and what I understand, what I've learned to understand is Yahweh already know what we gonna do,
Mm-hmm.
but he's trying to show you what you're gonna do.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you don't see your own actions, how are you gonna get strong in the mistakes that you've made? You see, that's one of all our problems. Sometimes we have to fall down to understand that's not the way to do that.
Right.
Or I messed up. I didn't do it quite right, so let me try it again. Not supposed to be so fearful of not trying to, I say, strengthen ourselves and doing it better. But our discernment, I think, would kick in to know, oh, that really is not the way to do it. Yahweh didn't mean this, he mean that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, some of us have to go and fall down and get our knees scuffed, the arms hurt, something like that, before we understand that ain't the way.
Mm-hmm.
Because some of us are pretty goddamn hard. And some see the mistakes others make and say, you know what, I don't want to do what he do. I don't want to do what she do. So I'm going to try it this way. Because I don't think that was the right way. Some of us have a little bit more wisdom in areas that others don't. And some in their areas, we don't have enough wisdom in areas to continue to do it the right way. So they learn from our mistakes.
Right.
This is what the body is about.
Mm-hmm.
So if we don't, I say, make mistakes, sometimes we're not going to find our truth. Sometimes we get puffed up and say, okay, look, I know I'm doing it right. And so I don't believe what you have to say. I know I'm doing it right. Oh, y'all wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Now we getting all dark inside. Now we making our big mistakes. So Yahweh's trying to show us the error of our ways through our mistakes, and he's showing you just like a daddy would show a child, no, that was a mistake. You made it wrong. You did it wrong. Let me help you, son. You got to take that bump and bruise you just got just now. That's going to hurt for a little while. But let me show you the right way. And we have to be, how you say, honest enough in ourselves to take Yah's heeding. Because most of the time we're too hard-headed. We want to do it our way.
Mm-hmm.
That's our mistake. We limit Yahweh from helping us because our head is so hard.
Right. And what would it say back in Jamaica? A hard
Yeah,
head
soft
make a
behind.
what?
Soft behind.
Soft behind. All right.
Jacob, James chapter 1 and verse 19. Wherefore, my beloved brethren, let every man be swift to hear, slow to speak, slow to wrath.
And tie that with any man that you would think will be wise in this world. Let him become a fool first, so that he may gain some wisdom. So this is why you have to be slow to speak and swift to listen. Go ahead.
Verse 20. For the wrath of man works not the righteousness of Elohim. Wherefore lay apart all filthiness and superfluity of naughtiness, and receive with meekness the engrafted word which is able to save your souls. But be you doers of the word, and not hearers only, deceiving your own selves. For if any be a hearer of the word, and not a doer, he is like unto a man beholding his natural face in a glass. For he beholds himself, and goes his way, and straightway forgets what manner of man he was. But whoso looks into the perfect law of liberty, and continues therein, he being not a forgetful hearer, but a doer of the work, this man shall be blessed in his deed. If any man among you seem to be righteous, and bridles not his tongue, but deceives his own heart, this man's religion is in vain. Pure religion undefiled before Elohim and the Father is this, to visit the fatherless and widows in their affliction, and to keep himself unspotted from the world.
All right. So unspotted from the world means that he's keeping the commandments. So he's not getting any spots on his garment, but that's not enough for him just to keep the commandments. He's got to do the deeds too. He got to go visit the fatherless and the widows in their affliction. He got to do the works of the Most High, not only the works in his own individual life that benefit him. Let's go to Revelation 14. We're going to see the first fruits of Yahweh and the Lamb. So remember, we are sort of kind of first fruit. Well, these are the true first fruits. These are the first fruits of that new body, with Yahshua being the first fruits of them that slept. And then now you have the first fruits of them with those new bodies. Revelation, the last book.
22.
Yeah, shalom, Sister Marshall. I hope
14.
you're feeling a little
14.
better. We missed you for the feast days. We hope your eye is doing better.
14.
14. Couple pages back.
Revelation chapter 14 and verse 1. And I looked, and lo, a lamb stood on the Mount Zion, and with him 144,000 having his father's name written in their foreheads.
So 144,000 having Yah's name, his Shem, his character in their foreheads. They have that new body, that new mind. They have a mind of the Father. So when it's written in their foreheads, that means how is it written inside their foreheads? That means his character is inside their mind, how they think, how they govern themselves. They have a mind of Yah. Go ahead.
And I heard a voice from heaven, as a voice of many waters, and as the voice of a great thunder. And I heard the voice of harpers harping with their harps. And they sung as it were a new song before the throne and before the four beasts and the elders. And no man could learn that song but the 144,000 which were redeemed from the earth.
All right, so this is a harvest. 144,000 which were redeemed from the earth. So this is the first fruits of Yah and the Lamb. Go ahead.
These are they which were not defiled with women, for they are virgins.
Now, does that mean that they died virgins? No, they have new bodies. They have new bodies. Remember, Yeshua said, no, in the resurrection, they asked him, well, whose wife do they belong to? Who do they belong to? Because everybody had her. It was 8 people that was with this woman, and the husband kept dying. The next husband kept dying. The next husband kept dying. So in the resurrection, who she belonged to? And Yeshua said, you do err because you don't know these scriptures. When you are in the resurrection, they like angels. They neither marry or given in marriage. So when you marry somebody, that means you made covenant and you sleep with that person. When you're given in marriage, that means you are given to a man and the man sleep with you. So they're neither. So they're virgins because they're not marrying. They're not given in marriage and they're not marrying. Go ahead.
These are they which were not defiled with women, for they are virgins. These are they which follow the Lamb wheresoever he goes. These were redeemed from among men, being the first fruits unto Elohim and to the Lamb.
All right, so these are the first fruits unto Elohim and the Lamb. So these are the first fruits that are of the new body, the new creation that we are trying to one day achieve that goal. These are who they talk about in Revelation 20, where these individuals don't have to worry about lake of fire. They've been saved because they've already received those new bodies that cannot be destroyed. And they go everywhere Yeshua goes. And when Yeshua is going with them, don't get it twisted. It ain't what you saw in Black Panther, where you see T'Challa, he wanted to just deal, I'm not going to punish the world. I just want to deal with my people. Well, guess what? This is King of Kings. This ain't king of imaginary place in Africa, king of Wakanda. This king coming here to judge the entire earth. The entire earth. And he's got 144,000 people with new bodies, that Yeshua body, that can transfigure themselves into different looks and all kind of things, and have flesh and bone with no blood. Those new bodies. And they coming to judge the world. And that's what we are trying to be prepared so that we don't die in that judgment.
Verse 5. And in their mouth was found no guile, for they are without fault before the throne of Yahweh. And I saw another angel fly in the midst of heaven, having the everlasting good news to preach unto them that dwell on earth, and to every nation and kindred and tongue and people, saying with a loud voice, Fear Elohim and give glory to him, for the hour of his judgment is come, and worship him that made heaven and earth and sea and the fountains of water. And there followed another angel saying, Babylon is fallen, is fallen,
We good.
that great city, because she made all nations drink of the wine of the wrath of her fornication. And the third angel followed them, saying with a loud voice, if any man worship the beast and his image and receive his mark in his forehead or in his hand, the same shall drink of the wine of the wrath of Elohim, which is poured out without mixture into the cup of his indignation. And he shall be tormented with fire and brimstone in the presence of the holy angels and in the presence of the Lamb.
All right, let's stop right there. Let's move on. Let's go to Romans chapter 8. And we're going to look at the first fruits of the Spirit. Romans chapter 8. Hmm? Okay.
Probably a bad signal.
Yeah, it's showing that it's still on live, but Wesley, isn't allowing you to broadcast again?
You ain't saying nothing yet.
It's showing that it's live here. Does it say to broadcast again, or?
I don't. It says
As a viewer,
study live, first fruits of YAH, but it's not. It has camera, photo, video, live video checking.
All right, just leave it. Don't worry about it.
I don't see anything like that.
Yeah, it's still on.
Broadcast interrupted.
Yeah. Refresh.
Romans chapter 8.
All right, we almost done. We just have to continue. Romans chapter 8, and we're going to start this at verse 1. It might not be broadcasting, but it looks like Facebook is still recording it. So this should be available.
Romans chapter 8 and verse 1. There is therefore now no condemnation to them which are in Mashiach Yahshua, who walk not after the flesh, but after the Spirit.
And that's how you know that you are in the Mashiach Yahshua, is when you're walking after the Spirit. Go ahead.
For the law of the Spirit of life in Mashiach Yahshua has made me free from the law of sin and death.
So what that means is, for the law of the Spirit of life, the grace period that we have is making you free from the law of sin and death, which means because you sin don't mean something has to die now, right away. You're getting grace period for a time period. So that means you don't have to die because you sinned right away. And that also means you don't have to kill that animal because it sinned right away. So that doesn't just mean pertaining to us. That also means pertaining to judging other individuals. That means we don't have to stone somebody to death for their mistake. They're going to get their judgment according to Yah's righteousness in the time of judgment. We're not in the time of judgment. We're in the grace period. Go ahead.
Verse 3. For what the law could not do, in that it was weak through the flesh, Yahweh sending his own Son in the likeness of sinful flesh, and for sin condemned sin in the flesh, that the righteousness of the law might be fulfilled in us who walk not after the flesh, but after the Spirit.
The righteousness of the law. So we have to get to the righteousness of the law. Not only just keep the law, but we need to be having a mind of what is the righteousness of this law? What is the spirit of this law? What is this law trying to get us to do, to understand, so that we can apply the law in righteousness?
Verse 5. For they that are after the flesh do mind the things of the flesh, but they that are after the Spirit, the things of the Spirit.
And this is why when you talk to a carnal person about these spiritual things, keeping holy days, you're not eating unclean food, loving your neighbor, they don't want to hear that. Like, so what time the football game come in? What happened to that girl you was talking to last week? They just all they want to deal is with carnal things. And when you talk about, well, this is why this is happening to you. This is spiritual. This is supernatural. I don't know what you're talking about. This is happening because white man is wicked. This is happening because we not spending our money together. This is happening because, they're smarter than us. It's white man's world. No, they not. This is happening to us because we being carnally minded and not spiritually minded.
Verse 6. For to be carnally minded is death, but to be spiritually minded is life and peace. Because the carnal mind is enmity against Elohim, for it is not subject to the law of Elohim, neither indeed can be. So then, they that are in the flesh cannot please Elohim.
And this is how you know somebody that is carnal minded. The law means nothing to them. It doesn't matter. God knows my heart. You know, I've done good deeds. Haven't I done all these good deeds in the name of Jesus? Get away from me, you worker of iniquity, which is lawlessness. I never knew you. So this is why, that's the difference between a spiritual minded and a carnal minded person. A spiritual minded person is trying to satisfy a spirit. A carnal person is trying to satisfy their own carnal mind, or the carnal mind of another man or woman that they have placed above them, or the carnal mind of a fake God that was made by somebody with a carnal mind. Go ahead.
Verse 9. But you are not in the flesh, but in the spirit, if so be that the spirit of Elohim dwells in you. Now if any man have not the spirit of Mashiach, he is none of his. And if Mashiach be in you, the body is dead because of sin, but the spirit is life because of righteousness. But if the spirit of him that raised up Yasharal from the dead dwell in you, he that raised up Mashiach from the dead shall also quicken your mortal bodies by his spirit that dwells in you. Therefore, brethren, we are debtors, not to the flesh, to live after the flesh. For if you live after the flesh, you shall die. But if you live through the spirit, do mortify the deeds of the body, you shall live.
And that's how you are killing that old man, is when you're mortifying the deeds of the body, which means you're killing that control of your flesh to make the decisions in your life. You hungry, so you ate. It didn't matter what it was. You hot and bothered, so you slept with whoever. It didn't matter. It was a man, woman, married or not. It didn't matter. You killing that's what the body will do. You're killing that flesh, and you're making the spirit the head, the decision maker in your life. Go ahead.
Verse
15.
No, we're at verse 13.
I got a question about verse 9.
Verse 9?
Yeah, about when it
Okay.
says, now if any man have not the spirit of Messiah, Mashiach, he is none of his.
Mm-hmm.
What is that referring to? Is that referring to baptism? Or?
Okay, so the spirit of the Mashiach is his word, his comforter, his Holy Spirit. And you receive that through your immersion. When you take this word and you follow the word, that's how you receive that. So if you don't have this word in you, the spirit of the Mashiach is this word. Israel, the firstborn spirit, if you don't have that in you, you don't belong to Yahshua.
What about people that are doing righteousness without, a knowledge of the law or the spirit? Like, how does that work?
Man has been doing good deeds since the beginning of time. You know, that goes hand in hand with the God that said, didn't I do all these good deeds in your name? Get away from me, you work of iniquity. I never knew you. The other nations aren't being held to this standard. Saul said, look, just stay away from strangled meats and blood and fornication and adultery. Just stay away from that. But we were given a higher standard. So when we as a people have been given the information about this word and have rejected that spirit, then we are none of his. Now, if this has not been presented to you, that's not for us to make a decision of whether somebody's part of this body or a spirit or not, because we don't know the end product. He may give mercy to other people that may get mercy in the kingdom, in the sabbatical kingdom, where it said, listen, nobody ever brought this to you. But if it would have been brought to you, we believe the Father knows, I know what's in you. I knew you would be following this. He might get a second chance. So it's not for us to make that decision. But you're not going to do good deeds your way into the kingdom rejecting these commandments, because you're rejecting Christ himself.
You know them by their fruit. It's the way you live your life, how you walk. And that's what we're trying to prove right now, which is reading the scripture, trying to follow Yahweh, trying to change our sinful ways, and one day become like-minded, because now we understand Yah and do what he asks to do, because we become like-minded.
Bless you.
And that's the issue that we're trying to do right now. It's like we don't think like Yahweh. We don't think like the Messiah. So by reading his word, we learn how to think And that's how we become like-minded, because we start practicing what he teaches us. You know, so then you receive the spirit of Yah. But you can read all his word that you want. You can memorize all his word that you want. But if your walk is not like this book, you gotta ask yourself a question. Am I really following the spirit of the Most High? Or what spirit am I following?
Mm-hmm.
And that's where the rubber hits the road, because a lot of us don't want to look at ourselves that way. We don't want to look at the man in the mirror.
Right.
Did we just read over, I think, a verse that talk about, we forgot the man who, I think it was in Yaakov, we forgot
Right.
the man that we saw.
Mm-hmm.
So we won't analyze ourselves. We just think that I'm doing all right. Or if I do this little thing over here, it's for a right purpose. It's with the ends to the means of what I'm doing. So I can do this little lighthearted dirt right here, or not that bad, but I'm gonna change it when I get through this little portion right here. That's how we wind up getting ourselves in trouble, thinking that it's okay to do this little bit of something to get our way.
Right.
And then we just wash over because it didn't slap outside our head right quick. So we just wash over. But the problem with that is we wind up forgetting what we did. And we won't go repent on that. So now we're supposed to go call on Yah to allow the Holy Spirit to bring things back to our remembrance of what we forgot and what we should have repented for. Will he? And when? We ran over a scripture before, talking about trying to remember what was the correct thought pattern we should have had. But sometimes we go so far, we forget the things that we did. Then we waiting for atonement to trying to call all the things that we did, and we forgot
Right.
to cry out to Yahweh to forgive us for what we've done. You know, for an atonement. But if we learn how to practice that thing that we did then, and go and atone for it, go cry out for it, then maybe Yahweh will have that mercy that we always praying for, so we can cleanse our garment at that time and get practice on not falling into the same hole we just walked into already. So to me, this goes really deep. We talk about becoming like-minded, you know, with our Father, or like-minded with our brothers, because our brothers we supposed to practice together, you know. And I think that's been one of our most hardest problems to learn. Once we leave this room of meditation, we walk outside the door, we forget most of the stuff. And when the world comes to tempt us, sometimes we don't know how to practice what we just read. And I think that we have to spend more time, because I myself get kind of crazy. You know, and sometimes I forget what's in these words. But see, after I've done something foolish, these words punches me right in the face. And I got to get on my knees, go light some incense, and call on my Father for forgiveness. But I'm thankful because he allowed me to remember what I just did that was wrong. I didn't just keep walking down the road
Right.
to forget what I did.
Right.
So that's what that kind of stuff means to me right now. It just opens up from one thing to the next thing to the next thing of our character.
Right. Go ahead, brother.
Romans chapter 8, verse 14. For as many as are led by the Spirit of Elohim, they are the sons of Elohim.
That's what I'm talking about.
For you have not received the spirit of bondage again to fear, but you have received the spirit of adoption, whereby we cry, Abba, Father. The Spirit itself bears witness with our spirit that we are children of Elohim. And if children, then heirs. Heirs of Yahweh and joint heirs with Mashiach, if so be that we suffer with him, that we may be also glorified together.
Mm-hmm.
For I reckon that the sufferings of this present time are not worthy to be compared with the glory which shall be revealed in us.
And that's your sacrifice when you suffer along with Mashiach. And how the Mashiach suffered is he followed his Father's commandments. And what the result of that was the world trying to kill you. So this is the same thing that we're going to have to go through. You're not going to find another way around this, thinking that you're going to keep all the commandments. And that just means the world is just going to yield to you. Yeah, eventually it's going to yield to you. But in that process, you have to go through the same suffering that Yahshua went through, because he was even worse. He was around his own people and they wanted to kill him. So we are around other nations that, that are going to want to kill us as well.
And brother, and with that verse right there is when he was in the city of God, the Gethsemane. Now we knew that a Messiah was perfect. But when he was in God, the Gethsemane, that temptation, that fear that came upon him made him speak outside himself. Just for a second. Because of that fear. What he did though, when he told his father, not my will be done, but your will be done, that's repentance.
Mm-hmm.
You see? So if I believe that my Messiah, who had that one moment of weakness, overcame that weakness because he redirected his thoughts to his Father's will.
Mm-hmm.
We do it consistently. So we need to do the same thing as repent and speak correct words, get like-minded with the Father,
Mm-hmm.
so we can keep our garment from being spotted.
Right.
So we can become, he said just right here, for as many are led by the Spirit of Elohim, they are the sons of Elohim.
Right.
And that is the Spirit of Elohim. Is that when we do verbal blunders, or mental thoughts that's wrong, and they will try to exalt themselves above the throne of Yah, if we don't capture those thoughts and repent, and capture those actions and repent, then how are we going to draw nigh to Yah? How are we going to be a son? How are we going to receive that spirit of Yah? If we're not trying to be, like-minded with the Messiah. So, that's something you need to think about.
Verse 18, for I reckon that the sufferings of this present time are not worthy to be compared with the glory which shall be revealed in us. For the earnest expectation of the creature waits for the manifestation of the sons of Elohim. For the creature was made subject to vanity, not willingly, but by reason of him who has subjected the same in hope. Because the creature itself also shall be delivered from the bondage of corruption into the glorious liberty of the children of Elohim. For we know that the whole creation groans and travails in pain together until now. And not only they, but ourselves also, which have the first fruits of the Spirit, even we ourselves groan within ourselves, waiting for the adoption, to wit, the redemption of our body. For we are saved by hope, but hope that is seen is not hope. For what a man sees, why does he yet hope for? But if we hope for that we see not, then do we with patience wait for it. Likewise, the Spirit also helps our infirmities, for we know not what we should pray for as we ought. But the Spirit itself makes intercession for us with groanings which cannot be uttered. And he that searches the hearts knows what is the mind of the Spirit, because he makes intercession for the saints according to the will of Elohim. And we know that all things work together for the good of them that love Elohim, to them who are called according to his purpose. For whom he did foreknow, he also did predestinate to be conformed to the image of his Son, that he might be the firstborn among many brethren.
All right, so this makes you the firstborn among many brethren. When you take this word, and it talks about, and he that searched the hearts knows what is in the mind of the Spirit, because he makes intercession for the saints according to the will of Elohim. So who's this he that searches hearts?
There's Ruach.
Verse 27. He that searches the hearts knows what is the mind of the Spirit, because he makes intercession for the saints according to the will of Elohim. Who's this he?
Yeshua? Or you talking about the Spirit of the Holy Spirit?
Right, that Spirit. The Spirit, that firstborn Spirit, that Spirit Israel, that Holy Spirit. It searches your heart because it knows the mind. It understands, and it makes intercession for us. So the Spirit, which is this word is constantly searching us and knows our mind. It knows what the flesh wants to do, because the flesh is no different. Flesh is flesh. It wants to serve itself. And it knows that. And that's why it can judge us and make intercession for us.
Verse 28, and we know that all things work together for the good of them that love Elohim, to them who are called according to his purpose. For whom he did foreknow, he also did predestinate to be conformed to the image of his Son, that he might be the firstborn among many brethren. Moreover, whom he did predestinate, them he also called. And whom he called, them he also justified. And whom he justified, them he also glorified. What shall we then say to these things? If Elohim be for us, who can be against us? He that spared not his own Son, but delivered him up for us all, how shall he not with him also freely give us all things? Who shall lay anything to the charge of Yahweh's elect? It is Elohim that justifies. Who is he that condemns? It is Mashiach that died, yea, rather that is risen again, who is even at the right hand of Elohim, who also makes intercession for us. Who shall separate us from the love of Mashiach? Shall tribulation or distress or persecution or famine or nakedness or peril or sword? As it is written, for your sake we are killed all the day long, we are accounted as sheep for the slaughter. Nay, in all these things we are more than conquerors through him that loved us. For I am persuaded that neither death nor life, nor angels, nor principalities, nor powers, nor things present, nor things to come, nor height, nor depth, nor any other creature shall be able to separate us from the love of Elohim, which is in Mashiach Yeshua our Master.
So none of these things, neither death, life, angels, principalities, powers, present things or things to come, heights, depths, creatures, or anything should be able to separate us from the love of Elohim, which is this word, which is this in the Mashiach Yeshua our Adonai. What's in the Mashiach Yeshua our Adonai is John chapter 1. In the beginning was the Word. The Word was with Elohim, and the Word was Elohim. So none of these things should be a ransom for our sin. So let's go to the conclusion. Let's go to Galatians chapter 5, which is another 2 or 3 books down. So yeah, another few books down, mommy. Galatians chapter 5. Start this at verse 16. Galatians chapter 5 and verse 16. You found it, Mama? It's like 3 or 4 books down from where we were. Galatians chapter 5 for the conclusion, and we're going to start this at verse 16.
This I say then, walk in the Spirit, and you shall not fulfill the lust of the flesh. For the flesh... Verse 17. For the flesh lusts against the Spirit, and the Spirit against the flesh, and these are contrary the one to the other, so that you cannot do the things that you would. But if you be led of the Spirit, you are not under the law. Now the works of the flesh are manifest, which are these: adultery, fornication, uncleanness, lasciviousness, idolatry, witchcraft, hatred, variance, emulations, wrath, strife, seditions, heresies, envyings, murders, drunkenness, revelings, and such like, of the which I tell you before, as I have also told you in times past, that they which do such things shall not inherit the kingdom of Yahweh.
All right, so they that do such things shall not inherit the kingdom of Elohim. So these are the works of the flesh. This is what your flesh wants to do. It wants to manifest all these things. But it says, but if you're led by the Spirit, you're not under the law. And where people are misunderstanding this, what are they talking about? They just said here, all these things are against the law that we just talked about here. In verse from 19 on, the works of the flesh. These are against the law. So it's not talking about if you're led of the Spirit, you're not under the law. It says if you're led of the Spirit, then you're not under animal sacrifices. You don't have to do animal sacrifices when you commit these type of offenses. Because we've all done these type of things before. Maybe not all of these things, but we've all dealt with idolatry. We've all had hatred. We've all had rife and heresy and strife. Drunkenness. We've all done these type of things. But if we are led by the Spirit, we're not under the law, which means when we find ourselves in any of these transgressions, we had somebody that made intercession for us and died for us and gave us grace period to say, this is not who I am. I'm entertaining another spirit. This is idolatry, what I'm doing. Let me repent from this, and I don't have to kill an animal to do that. I don't have to be killed to do that. Go ahead.
Verse
22.
But the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, long-suffering, gentleness, goodness, faith.
So these are the fruits of the Spirit. These are not the works of the flesh. There's a difference. You have the works of the flesh, and then now you have the fruit of the Spirit. So we are supposed to be bearing much fruit. These are the things that glorifies the Most High. He says, herein now, this is how you glorify the Father, is that you bear much fruit. So we're not a physical tree. We're not going to grow no fruit on us. It is not talking about just having children, which are also the fruit of your womb, because you can have wicked children. You can raise them the wrong way. But it's talking about bearing this fruit here, the fruit of the Spirit, love, joy, peace, long suffering, which means you are being chastened, and you are also dealing with tribulation for righteousness' sake, gentleness, goodness, faith. Verse 23.
Meekness, temperance. Against such there is no law. And they that are Mashiachs have impaled the flesh with the affections and lusts. If we live in the Spirit, let us also walk in the Spirit. Let us not be desirous of vainglory, provoking one another, envying one another.
So let us not be desirous of vainglory. Glory that is vanity. Glory that is long lasting is glory of the Father, glorifying the Father. That's long lasting. But vainglory is glorying of ourselves, or when we appear on the surface that we're glorifying the Father, but really we doing things for ourselves, to make a name for ourselves, to appear righteous in front of other individuals. That's vainglorying, which is going to provoke one another and cause each other to envy each other, because you're doing something to make yourself look good and make somebody else look less than you. That's going to cause envying, and that's going to cause provoking amongst one another. But if you keep your mind towards the Most High and try to do your deeds in a manner that's going to glorify Yah, that's not going to make it as easy for others to envy you, because you're not trying to do it all in front for everybody to see. You're doing things in secret, or you're doing things when they're necessary, and there may not be a bunch of people to see that. So again, we are getting ready after this Sabbath that is coming this week. The next day after that is going to be the Feast of First Fruits, where we are to offer unto the Most High, and we're supposed to wave a sheaf. We're supposed to be offering the best of what we had. And again, all of us have our own produce and our own land given to us to go ahead and plant. So we are the first fruits. We are the kind of first fruits. So we are offering ourselves, and we are offering the best of what we have. And the best of what we have is what we harvesting, which is these spiritual fruits, the fruits of the Spirit. And we're offering the best through covenant and through the work that we're doing. So that's all we're going to do today. Any last questions or comments before we close in prayer?
I got kind of a random question.
Mm-hmm.
But in Second Samuel, I think it was
Mm-hmm. What was the situation?
right after King Saul had passed, and the son, and Dawood had prayed. He had fasted
Mm-hmm.
for him. And I was wondering, like, why would he fast? Like, after they had passed away, what was he fasting for? Like, what was the point of that?
Because Yahweh's anointed passed. Remember, David wouldn't touch Saul. He said, and he was even upset that he even cut the hem off of his gown. He said, nah, when he realized what he was doing, he put himself down before Saul and said, listen, I don't have no ill intent against you. Yahweh put you here. Shemuel anointed you king. So I don't have no problems with you. You want to kill me? Go ahead and kill me. And it was his humility and his faith in Yahweh that caused that evil angel to leave Saul just like that. And Saul realized, man, this is a righteous man. Remember me when you become king. Remember my family. Don't kill my family. So when Saul and his family got righteous judgment, remember Saul's son was Jonathan. And Jonathan was best friends with Dawid. And both of them died. So he's fasting and mourning for the king of Yasharal dying and knowing that he died in his wickedness. So he's praying and fasting to have mercy on him and have mercy on the son, on his good friend. They said we're closer than even lovers. That's how close these brothers were. So he fasted for that, in prayer to show the Most High, that I'm going to afflict myself in prayer so that you'll hear the prayer, of him praying for another family. So that's one aspect. Jonathan, you have any other aspects of why he might have fasted?
Yeah, I think you covered it, but I believe it was purely out of mourning.
Mm-hmm.
It was purely out of mourning. Like his soul couldn't bear his best friend, passing like that, and I mentioned, you read about the love that Dawid and Jonathan had. It's like the one that exceeds man to a woman.
Mm-hmm.
So not in no funny type of way, but
Right.
He really had a close bond with him as a brother. And in righteousness and serving Yah, it had a more redemptive quality than just, this is my buddy, we're just going to do bad things together and steal from the grocery store. Like, It was going to war to one another. This is someone I'm going to trust to cover me when we're at war, we're watching blood being shed. And it was real deep.
Loving your neighbor like yourself. He loved his friend like himself. You supposed to love your wife like your own body. So it's surpassing that. So he's definitely loving his brother like himself to the point where, he's going against his own father. Jonathan is going against his own father, to help his brother. So any other questions or comments? Did we answer that?
Yeah, I think I get it.
All right, let's go ahead and close in a prayer. All brothers remove their head coverings. All sisters pray with their heads covered. We face the east towards Jerusalem. Brother Jonathan, can you go ahead and close us out in prayer, please?
Father Yahweh, you are the most righteous one, O Yah. You are the one who is full of mercy, pardoning our iniquities and putting aside the judgments that we deserve, Yahweh. Making room for our improvements and our growth, Yah. And we thank you, Yahweh, for creating this oasis in the desert that we may come before you and be edified and be fed. That though our bodies may grow off earthly food, Yahweh, you provide the manna from heaven that our spirits may grow as well. The part of us that's created in your image, Yahweh. Allow us to continually be fed, Yahweh, so that our spirits may reflect you, that our souls may reflect you and continue to remain in your likeness. Don't allow us, Yahweh, to be starved and go thirsty in these desert lands which do not have nourishment for our soul. They may have nourishment for our bodies, Yahweh, but the nourishment for our soul is lacking. And I thank you for having mercy upon us, Yah, and I pray that you continue in this good work toward us, that we may manifest all your goodness in the sight of all these nations who may hate us for the fact that we are seeking you, Yah. We thank you and we bless you in the name of Yahshua we pray. Amen.
Amen.
These off, right?
Yes, sir.